We move on to discuss Tottenham. Tottenham. Um, they actually played today in the AFL Cup. They took on Coventry. If you remember, Coventry gave United some troubles last year in the FA Cup semi-final. Coventry led. We know the American international Haji Wright plays for them. And yeah, Tottenham obviously they went in with a little bit of a second team, with Ben Davies, Draxen, Bergvall, Timo Werner, Odegaard. Not exactly who actually Odegaard actually suffered a significant injury for Postecoglou. Postecoglou announced. But yeah, Tottenham, they were able to get the win. They went down actually in the 63rd minute to Thomas Asante's goal. But Jet Spence in the 80th minute was able to equalize before Brennan Johnson, who they were both second half substitutes as well, was able to get the winning goal in stoppage time, 92 minutes. Obviously, I'm not going to give you a tactical breakdown. I would be 100% honest. I did not watch the game. I was tuned into the Champions League ties that were going on at similar times. But yeah, the Spurs late show saves them in the EFL Cup. But moving on to Tottenham, we know, Tottenham has had clear issues this season, in my opinion. They've had 4 games in the Premier League. And in every single game, they've been, in terms of general play, in terms of being able to control possession, create opportunities or have moments that they should be creating clear-cut opportunities. Just in terms of general play, being able to control the ball, being able to be the protagonist, to be more on the attack. In all 4 games, they have outplayed the opposition. In quote unquote, they have outplayed, but they haven't been clinical enough. They've lacked the ruthlessness and the cutting edge in the attack, specifically in that final third, which is the main reason why they have only 4 points only in this Premier League campaign, with 3 bad results, drawing in the opening game against Leicester, a team that they played completely out of the park, just lacked that ruthlessness to put them away when they had their opportunities to, and allowed Leicester to stay in. Against Newcastle, sort of the same thing in terms of really dominating the game, but despite having real dominance, not being able to take advantage of it, and then individual moments from Newcastle playing in transition, in which also the combination of why Tottenham hasn't had success this season so far to start off the season in the Premier League is that they're able to dominate games in terms of possession and in terms of being the protagonist, but when they get into the final third, they lack that clinicalness and cutting edge. But on top of that, they're pretty open defensively as well because of how high that they play. And when you're playing really that high, you're vulnerable to the ball over the top, to transition moments. And if you don't take advantage when the opportunities come, whenever the other team finally gets a chance to attack, they will have so much space and so much room to play in behind, and it'll just take that one moment and Tottenham find themselves dominating the last 30-35 minutes, but Newcastle is the one that scores, or Arsenal is the one that scores. And it's been the same story so far to Tottenham's. In every 4 game, after every single game, besides obviously the Everton game in which they just dominated Everton, in the 3 games that they've been unsuccessful in, it's been the same story. And Postecoglou could say the same things at each press conference, and we couldn't tell which game he was talking about, because it was the same story in all games, just lacking that cutting edge in the attack. And and look, there was that opening day. Solanke was Solanke did have a few opportunities, couldn't really take advantage. That second game that they were disappointing in against Newcastle, he wasn't involved, so we gave them a little bit of a pass for that. Against Arsenal, he was involved, and look, against Arsenal, yes, Arsenal defended really, really well, but Solanke didn't have a few opportunities. He had one half opportunity on a back post header that, that it was tightly marked on, and he made the best out of nothing, which is sort of which is what he was brought in to do, but not enough balls played in, not enough cross sent in, not enough times where they took the risk and played the ball into space for Solanke to have a strike. He didn't really find himself in opportunities to to score. There was not good enough service for him in that Arsenal game, and at the same time, Arsenal did defend really, really well overall. But look, they have a lot of possession. They find themselves in the attacking half of Tottenham all the time, but they just don't create enough clear-cut opportunities. They just don't create enough clear-cut opportunities, and they don't, and since Solanke has been in, they haven't created, in that Arsenal game, they didn't create enough clear-cut opportunities with him. And the problem, we can't point out and say the attackers are not good. Son Heung-min, Kulishevsky, these are some really, really good players. Dominic Solanke, he scored 19 goals in the Premier League last season. We're waiting to see whether he is up for the task, being a lead man for a team that has aspirations like Tottenham do of getting back in the top four. Is he good enough at that level? We don't know. But for us to figure out, there needs to be more clear-cut opportunities created for him, and the team needs to create more in general. And then on top of that, they have the issues that they have in terms of not being clinical enough in the attack, and then the few moments that they find themselves defending, with the way that they play, they find themselves very vulnerable, because they're playing really, really high. That second goal from Newcastle, it was, I'd be so frustrating watching that as a Tottenham fan. You're watching a game, you're dominating the game. This is at St. James's Park as well. In the second half, 35 minutes, it's constant pressure, trying to, create that opportunity, trying to find that space, trying to get that ball into the back of the net, to give yourself the lead. You're constantly pressurizing them, and then in the snap of a finger, Newcastle get on the ball. They play that one ball in behind, and they're in, and it's 2-1 just like that. Completely against the run of the play, and that's the problem too. How high they play their defensive line is it's been described as suicidal. That's how high that they play, and it's something that Postecoglou is not. He's stubborn about it. The brilliant managers, in which we're still trying to figure out whether he belongs in that, group or not. In terms of brilliant managers, they don't really have a plan B. They really try to make plan A better, and Tottenham do have this very high line, and they play very, very bold, and it allows them to be more on the front foot in the game. But if you're on the front foot and you're not taking advantage of your opportunities, then you're gonna concede them going the other way, and that's just the cold hard reality. And even with the pace that Mickey Van de Ven can provide for you, they still have that helps you a little bit in transitional moments, but they still have that weakness that they have in defending set pieces that goes back to last season as well. And that was, again, the reason of their downfall against Arsenal. Arsenal did not create much clear-cut out opportunities against Tottenham. Martinelli had one early on, but apart from that, it was Tottenham, not creating any clear-cut opportunities, but they were the ones that generally had the possession, especially in the attacking third. But Arsenal, they stayed tight defensively. They didn't give up much space. They didn't give up any opportunities. And when they've found the moment to capitalize on a weakness of Tottenham, they did exactly that, and it's exactly what you do in a North London derby away. And yeah, for me, Tottenham, they have multiple issues that they need to fix. It's not just the lack of cutting edge in the attack, which is their biggest issue, but also defensively. You can find yourselves in individual moments and make those sort of mistakes that they make. They're so easy to play in behind because of how high they are. They make clumsy mistakes on set pieces as well, and you just need to tidy that up going forward, because the honeymoon period is over for Ange Postecoglou. There was a lot of praise for how they played last season in the attacking football, but you know eventually you're gonna have to cash checks for this season. You can't cash in all the checks from last season. Eventually they will expire. And yeah, Tottenham, they do need to improve. They do need to improve. There's no doubt about that. They move on to take Brentford this Saturday before their Europa League campaign starts off that following Thursday. Will they take on Karabag, and then that following weekend, on that following Sunday, they have a big game going away to Old Trafford to take on Manchester United. So yeah, interesting stretch of games coming up for them as well.